The Royal Holloway MA in Crusader Studies is, I think, a unique MA in the world. There's no other one focusing on Crusader Studies, and it's designed to give an advanced postgraduate taught level insight into the range and the development and the impact of crusading down the centuries. In the course of this, we look at a fantastic range of material, narratives, charters, wills, variously unpublished translated Arabic texts, travel documents, a huge diversity of materials that allow us to develop a sophisticated insight into the Crusades and their world. The range of the course encompasses Urban II's speech at the Council of Clermont. We move through Saladin's recovery of Jerusalem in 1187. We can look at relations with the Greeks, the Byzantines in the course of the First Crusade, the Fourth Crusade. Other options consider the role of women as people who encourage crusades, who look after lands when crusaders are away, who take part in crusades, and to actually rule Jerusalem as well. A further option looks at pilgrimage, the process and the importance of pilgrimage in the religiosity of the 12th century. We also look at the Crusade of Louis IX, the largest crusade of the 13th century, which also saw the ending of the Ayyubid dynasty, Saladin's dynasty, with its final ruler, his body lying discarded on the banks of the Nile. We also look at contact with the Mongols via the Crusades, and we look at attempts by Western missionaries to go and convert the great Khans, surely an act of unparalleled optimism in the history of the world. There's also a further unit that is particularly unique and is particularly innovative and evolves every year that I teach it, and that's looking at the memory and the legacy of the Crusades. This is something that I think is particularly pertinent to the world in which we live in today. People from the far right to Osama bin Laden to ISIS invoke the memory and the legacy of the Crusades, and this unit traces how that has survived and evolved over the years. In the West, looking at Romantic literature, the idea of the Crusade as a good cause, perhaps also in a more sharper way in World War I. But then in the Near East, how the memory has survived through the legacy of Saladin, the importance of him as a figure, drawing the Near East together, throwing Westerners out, an understanding of how toxic that memory is. And that goes down to the present day, and we use all sorts of texts, films, various bits of material culture to gather that together. Students on this course have written essays as various as Kingdom of Heaven, Assassin's Creed, Mexican drug barons invoking the Knights Templar, all sorts of things. So it's a very flexible and dynamic unit. During the degree, you will hone your skills in the research development course, in which your ability to study historical records and evidence will be honed. You also have a linguistic unit, Latin, to advance that vital skill in your profile as a medieval historian. And then, in many ways, the culmination of your degree will be your dissertation, a significant body of original research, the subject of which is decided between you and your tutors. So, having done this MA, what are you going to do with it? And in some senses, that is almost answered by why you should do it, and that is your passion and your love of the subject. And about a third of the students taking the course use this as a springboard to go on to do further research. They will go on to do a PhD. I think we produced about 15 or 16 PhD students so far, with maybe 10 published books emerging from that cohort. So there's a strong case that this is a good springboard to further research. But equally, there's a big group of students who do this because they want a further year's study. They love the Crusades, they want to dig deeper at a more research level into the subject. While an MA in Crusader Studies may sound a little bit niche, and indeed it is, people have used the MA to go on to an enormous range of different careers. People in the diplomatic service, civil service, into government, into industry, into finance, management, law, journalism, and many of the creative industries associated with history and historical heritage. There's actually another group of people who are taking this MA, and that's those who perhaps studied history a little while back, perhaps in their undergraduate days, and have gone on to successful careers in all sorts of things, and now have the time and the interest to pick up their first love, as it were, and to go back to look at the Crusades. And there's a significant number of people taking the MA who are part of that group and who really enjoy and get a great kick out of looking at medieval history for a second time. So, with the MA in Crusader Studies, we have a wide-ranging, dynamic, evolving course that can bring you interest, excitement, and advance your historical career. So, if you'd like to know more about it, contact me, Jonathan Phillips, at Royal Holloway.